We have Brad Beumer and Joe Nieto. Welcome. And I'll just give you a brief background of these two exceptional individuals. Brad is the CX and Contact Center Lead of Americas at Uipath. He's Uipath's customer service and contact center practice. He's led that for the Americas to evangelize Uipath's platform for customer experience and contact center automation. He's built 2 CRM consulting practices from the ground up. Wow, that's amazing. Leading strategic direction, client acquisition, people development, and solution delivery. He's led architecture and technical delivery of customer engagement and experience solutions for leading global organizations. Very tenured, getting some expertise here. And then we have Joe down in Houston, my favorite southern city, director of customer engagement, health sciences, beyond RPA, and cognitive automation. Joe really cares about the impact that his work has on the world and is passionate about working at the intersection of emerging technologies and fixing the problems that matter. Love it. Joe enjoys leading the vision and brings transformative thinking to his clients. He is a proven leader who empowers his team to achieve excellence. Joe has the experience to help his clients connect the dots by constantly keeping a pulse on their industry, the impacts and changes that put them on the path of success. So welcome, Brad and Joe. I look forward to an incredible presentation. It's all yours.
All right, thanks, Jim. We're really excited to be here and to be talking today about really kind of being the wrap up here around how you can use automation, how you can use Uipath automation to help improve customer experience. It's a topic, as you talked about, a great introduction, Joe and I are both very passionate about, so we're really looking forward to discussing this with the audience today. Our agenda is pretty simple. I'm going to start off talking a little bit about something that's new for us that we haven't really talked about a lot, but something we call the Honeycomb Effect within Uipath. And then we're going to talk about, I know, in our abstract, we talked about customer stories. So we're going to focus on some vignettes and some snippets of customer stories along with how Uipath really helps, or how automation helps improve customer experience. And then Joe's going to wrap things up. He's going to tell us he's going to be the exciting part of the presentation today, which is going to be around the customer story and how they're using chatbot and conversational AI technologies to help a hospital network improve health outcomes. So we're really excited to learn more about that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into things. As I was starting to think about how we were going to talk about this idea of the honeycomb effect today, something that came up this week was our CFO was presenting to a group of analysts, and he was talking about how our top customers started back many years ago with Uipath, and maybe they started in just a one specific line of business, such as finance and accounting, maybe IT or legal, maybe in the contact center. And then how over the years they've seen value and have been able to, over the quarters and years, they've been able to see value and expand into other parts of the business because of these linkages between those different lines of businesses, and especially how automation can help with those linkages. So for contact center, what this might mean is a lot of times we think of using attended robots or automation to help a contact center agent with things like taking away all the keyboard strokes that they might have to remember and memorize, copying, pasting, all those mundane tasks that they have during a call that also requires them to maybe put a customer on hold or maybe lack of talk time. Well, a lot of that activity is what a robot can help with and a robot can do, so that way the agent, of course, can talk to the customer. But one area that we see, especially now, I would say a lot of customers, I was talking about customers starting with engagement, a lot of customers I talk to now, especially over the past 3 to 6 months, want to start off with omnichannel, or how do we provide new self-service capabilities to improve the customer experience. So this might be, for example, a customer like ours, a Fiserv, who has automated essentially 10,000 credit card, debit card, card reload, order requests per day, not per month, per week, per quarter, per day, by using an unattended robot with Uipath and handing that off to handing those transactions off to an unattended robot instead of them going to an agent. So a lot of customers are looking at how can they improve self-service and also provide a consistent self-service experience? And that's a key problem that we help solve here in this omni-channel comb that you see on the screen. Now, the other part that comes up more and more often is how can you help with voice of the customer? We get great surveys, results from Medallia, Qualtrics, and similar organizations. Maybe you're just sending out a simple NPS survey. Maybe a customer has said that they're not happy. So how does that turn into a ticket that gets assigned to someone or a case that gets assigned to someone, if you can identify who they are, so that way you can start to be proactively worked. And maybe in some cases, the robot can actually start working on that. So how do you take that information that you're soliciting from customers? If they spend the time to respond to a survey, how do you take action on that? Oftentimes automation, robots can help with those actions. Likewise with customer experience analytics, a lot of our customers we talk to, a lot of our contact center customers and business process outsource partners and others are implementing tools like CallMiner, one of our partners, for post-call analytics. Well, those post-call analytics, the information you get, such as maybe an agent needs some additional training. Well, actually scheduling that training in the learning management system, scheduling the time off in workforce management or blocking the time in workforce management, maybe blocking the time on nurse calendar, scheduling a follow-up with that agent supervisor. Those are all activities that a robot can do. So having a robot handle or an automation handle some of those CX analytics activities. And by the way, I'm talking about post-call, but that also applies to real-time analytics too. So if there's a next best action, for example, from a partner like Cresta AI, those actions can actually be handed off to a robot to go and do. So maybe fulfilling that next best offer or taking that next best action, the robot can do it instead of the agent having to do it. So I spent a lot of time talking about the contact center piece, and you're probably wondering, well, where do those other line of business, where do they fit in here? So it's actually pretty interesting because we've got some good customer examples here. So on the logistics side or supply chain side with logistics, we have a global retailer, and that global retailer has its own trucking fleet. So they're getting goods from one store to another store, from a distribution warehouse out to a store. And they also have third party or independent trucking firms. Well, one of the challenges they had is that they have a 24/7, 365 staff that's on call to take updates from these truckers. For example, if they're on time, maybe if they're delayed, that needs to feed into the just-in-time logistics, supply chain, warehouse management system, and other things. So right now, an agent has to do all that. Well, you could roll out an app to help with that, or to have these drivers start to update their status. But then that's a huge organization change and human change management problem in terms of how do you get your own fleet of truckers, how do you get independent truckers to be able to start to do something different. So instead of doing that, you're able to, these truck drivers are actually able to still use a phone call. They'll call into the phone system, give the phone system the exact same information, and then the phone system hands that off to a robot to do all the work that the agents used to do. So the staff doesn't need to be there to help with those calls. And if they need to talk to an agent, there's still a warm transfer there from self-service over to an agent. But the key is a big reduction in the amount of people that you need to be able to get those status updates, and you didn't have to make a big change on the drivers. They're still able to do things the way they're used to. So another area where we see is help desk, IT help desk. So we have some customers that will actually try or prototype automation ideas in their help desk before rolling them out to their contact center. So some of these organizations have tens of thousands of agents. So sometimes you want to maybe prove something out in your IT help desk, like a after call work automation, or maybe an automation that involves speech to text and sentiment analysis before rolling it out. And we have other cases where we have contact center automations that started, or automation that started in the contact center, and then the help desk said, hey, we'd like to have that automation too. We have a telecommunications client that does internet troubleshooting, where they have agents that help with troubleshooting problems. An interesting part of this is if a customer is past due on their bill, maybe it's automatic payment, maybe the credit card, for whatever reason, the number changed or something like that. Well, the agent becomes somewhat of a collections agent, or helping to turn an order into cash. By the first step is not so much to troubleshoot the problem, but actually to get the customer's new payment details. We have other customers in the distribution space. that have fairly complex contracts. So these contracts for their largest customers are often unique to that customer. So when a customer calls in to place a new order or maybe a reorder, that agent becomes someone who is actually helping to translate those terms and conditions. Finally, last but certainly not least, is on the HR side. So being able to use conversational AI and chatbots to help offer recruiting capabilities. This is something that one of our customers is looking at in terms of how do you use a chatbot to help a potential candidate find a position, find the recruiter for the position, and maybe even schedule time on that recruiter's calendar. So all that happens automatically through the chatbot working with the Uipath robot. We're going to talk a lot more about that later on, so I'm not going to go into too much detail there. The last part is Department of Commerce did a great webinar with us just a few weeks ago to talk about how they use Uipath in their HR contact center or for some of their HR activities. So that's robots working together with HR for employee relations. So when we look at all this, this is what we really think of as that effect. When you maybe start in one area and then there become use cases in other areas, and it just tends to expand out through all the different lines of business. Now we're here to talk a little bit more today about, of course, customer experience in the contact center. The first part is omni-channel. So how can we help with self-service? So when we talk about omni-channel, it may be customers starting out on a website, they look for a product, then maybe they start a chatbot session. That chatbot may start off as automated chatbot together with the Uipath robot and the chatbot tool. And then maybe at some point they decide, hey, I'd like to talk to someone. Well, each one of those transitions from the website to the chatbot to maybe a live person on a phone call, those should be seamless. Customers shouldn't have to start over again and again each time. That's a key problem, a key challenge that we help solve. That you can probably think of brands that you have maybe bought from or work with today, and sometimes that can be a little disjointed. So we're trying, part of our story around being able to help improve customer experiences around how do we make that journey help make it less disjointed. We have a large regional banking customer here in the US that uses a Uipath robot together with one of our partners, Amazon Connect, to provide self-service for a lot of high volume, low complexity transactions. These may be things like account unlocks, password reset for the mobile banking application, international travel. So you're traveling out of the country, you usually need to unlock your credit card or ensure that it works for that trip to Paris when we're able to go back to Paris. It's another similar transaction. So they reported back that has helped their call deflection rates by about 30%, but also helps with that seamless transition over to the agent. And now when you're on the agent's desk, some of the key things that we like to do are be able to provide a single view of the customer. So that way the agent isn't having to go around and try to find information about the customer in a lot of different systems. And how does that robot really help throughout the call? And these may be things like just helping with automating into certain screens, the commands, the keystrokes, et cetera, automating after call work, maybe helping an agent start their day or end their day, or if they're going away to break. Several customers here in this space that have really reported various benefits, but you can see a few here on the screen. Average handle time reduction of 40%, first contact resolution rates increasing to 10%, and decreasing of training time by 20%. We have a customer, Australia Digital Health Authority, that reported that their training time actually decreased by almost 50%, 49.6%, by using Uipath. So that means just by taking away a lot of those keystrokes, commands, and things that an agent needs to know, taking that out of the training means that you didn't have to spend as much time training the agent, or what I sometimes see more often is that training time gets repurposed for soft skills rather than training on hard skills. A few of the other areas here is just, we already talked about some of these, but voice of the customer is how do you use the robot to help with those follow-ups. And then on the customer experience analytics, the robot can actually be that next best action or the follow-up for a quality assurance review. All right, Jim, we've got our first poll. I've done enough talking. Let's get the audience engaged here.
Right. And let's see if I can launch this.
Okay.
There it goes. So the first question is, what are your top customer experience improvement priorities? Please select one. Add self-service capabilities. 2, increase agent productivity. 3, improve agent soft skills and engagement. All of the above is the fourth. And the fifth is we have other improvement priorities. So let's see. Can everybody see the poll? Collecting responses, it says. So anything else you had to add, Brad, while we're collecting responses here? They're coming in. Most of them are coming in at ads self-service capabilities at 58%, 50%, let's say. Nothing for the second and third right now. 30-some% for all of the above. 17%.
Got it. Well, certainly the fifth, I think you said 58% for self-service. That's pretty consistent with what I see in speaking with customers and our partners and some of our BPO partners on a daily basis. Is that's a key priority. That's a key priority right now. Is how do you help customers do more through self-service? I think the reason for that is that it's one of the rare win-wins where by providing more self-service options and consistent self-service options, it actually increases customer satisfaction while also helping the business lower costs, because it's usually much cheaper to do to perform a transaction in a self-service channel versus with a call to an agent or an email to an agent.
Great. So you can see the poll results there, right, Brad?
I cannot, but I think I've got the general idea.
Okay, great.
Very
good.
That
closed out the poll. So I think you can go on.
All right, very good. Just confirming you can see my screen.
Poll's still showing.
How do I?
There we go.
There we go. Okay.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So the next part I want to talk about is a little bit is how does the Uipath platform help with all those things we were just talking about. So oftentimes we tend to think of robots as unattended robots. So these are robots that run on their own without a person. So these would be more for the self-service or omni-channel capabilities we were talking about earlier. And you might have attended robots as well. So we have both varieties. We think that this is really important, especially for being able to provide that exceptional customer experience, because oftentimes there's a handoff from an unattended robot to an attendant or to an agent, and then maybe to someone in the back office, which might be an unattended or attended robot. But the robots aren't, we feel like there's, for a platform, especially for customer experience, to deliver a truly exceptional customer experience, you need to have quick time to value. And you need to have tools supporting those robots. So discover tools, or tools that help you discover automations, tools that help you build those automations, whether you're a non-developer or a coder, all the same. Tools that help you manage and govern those robots. What happens, how do you tell if your robots are being used? What happens if one robot isn't functioning properly? Being able to make those updates. And then finally, how do you engage with your robots? Do more than just maybe a simple interface. How do you provide complex user interfaces, or maybe simple ones through conversational AI and chatbot tools? So these would be tools like you can see some of the different products on the screen here from Uipath that help with these areas. I'm going to talk more about these in a second, so we're just going to go through and build this out. But when we look at the different tools here and we talk about Discover, so oftentimes we think of discovery tools as being able to help us discover automation opportunities. But for customer experience and contact center, we actually have customers that use us for example, our task capture tool for time and motion studies, task capture and task mining, for things like time and motion studies. So I used to spend, when I first started out in this space, I used to spend a lot of time, sometimes weeks, when I was a consultant, just trying to gather information about how long agents were spending on certain processes and steps, and then documenting that. Well, those tools actually automate a lot of that down to what used to take me weeks, down to maybe just a few minutes or hours. But the other part here is that once you've used task mining, our task mining tool, you can actually discover what your best agents are doing and what are they doing differently that's making them at that top level, at the top tier. Now, the other interesting part is once you've discovered who your best agents are and what they're doing, you may already know who they are, but discover what they're doing that's maybe different, you can also automatically document that. So we have a customer in the utility space that's actually used our task capture tool to document over and redocument over 200 standard operating procedures and training information that goes out to their agents. A process that they felt would have taken them easily over a year of a person's time, maybe not a full year in terms of length, but a year of person times and number of hours, down to just a few weeks through automating that process with these tools. The last part is around customer journey analytics. So our process mining tool, if you have phone logs, well, everybody has these. You have phone logs, website logs, maybe chatbot logs if you've rolled out chatbots, email logs, and others, right? So we can actually ingest those logs into our tool to help you start to analyze and get an idea of what your customer journey might look like. And that might help you identify where customer pain points are and then how you might be able to use automation or other solutions to help fix those pain points. So that's the discover side. Now I mentioned build, and one of the key parts here, one of the key things when I first started out, we built a lot of custom solutions. We had to take agents off the floor to help us with focus groups and help walk us through the process and other things. But what happened up here in Discover? So we've actually already documented the process. From the best agents have already documented the process. So that documentation can actually be fed right into Uipath Studio. So that way you don't have to take those agents off the floor, especially right now, because I know it's hard to find contact center agents. And a lot of the contact center customers I talk to are understaffed and maybe a little overwhelmed. So when you're rolling out automations, one to help fix that problem, you don't want to exacerbate it by having to pull people off phone calls and emails, et cetera. And those tools, I mean, again, are for developers and non-developers alike. But the way Uipath works, the way our robots work, is that we can integrate with just about anything. And we also try to make it really easy and configurable to be able to integrate with anything and to be able to pull those integrations together into a workflow. But we said, what can we do to take that to the next step? What can we do to take it a step further? So we created a marketplace with several integrations for things like Amazon Connect and the other AWS services, Twilio, Genesis, Salesforce. You see a few others there on the screen. Doesn't mean those are the only solutions that we work with. We actually can work with just about anything, but we built connectors to help make it all that much faster for you to achieve time to value by creating those connectors and doing some of the plumbing to help integrate them into your process flows. I think when it comes to work from home agents, I think our Citrix integration, a lot of customers that I talk to deploy their applications through a VDI solution like Citrix or others. I think some of our integration capabilities there are help us stand out, but also how do you use AI centered? How do you leverage newer technologies to help route emails intelligently so that it just doesn't go to an agent. The agent has to read through it and try to figure out what's going on. Maybe you route it to the right person. Maybe you can actually use a robot to respond to the customer's initial request. Text summarization, so we can collect a lot of data for after call works, but if it's 5,000 characters, nobody's ever going to read it. So how do you get that 5,000 characters, the key points from those characters down to 200 or 250 that someone can easily read when they open a ticket for a follow-up call? And then one that comes up a lot is, how are you doing your Ivr testing, especially if you're adding conversational AI, natural language processing and understanding and other tools. Those can go off the rails, but if you have automated testing, it helps make sure that that AI is doing what you want it to do. The last part here is, how do you create a true single view of the customer? So we have low code plus RPA tools to help bring those together. And a few others that you see there too. But where we're going to talk a little bit more, and this is a good transition, is how can you use RPA together with a chatbot to help also boost your customer experience? And this is where Joe's going to come in to talk a little bit more about that. But before we go there, I just want to, one of the big questions I get is, well, we have a chatbot, but why would we add RPA? Why would we add Uipath together with our chatbot tool? And the answer is actually quite straightforward. So chatbots are very good at question and answers, FAQ type stuff. Sometimes they have AI capabilities, but what they're not very good at is oftentimes integrating into your backend systems. And those backend systems that may or may not have an API, oftentimes don't have an API. And then following a process flow, for example, maybe creating a ticket in the CRM or a case in the CRM, updating the order entry system with the ticket number, maybe pulling out a shipping status or shipping tracking number out of the order system, going and pulling that tracking number and putting it into FedEx or UPS or some other third-party logistics provider site, and then ultimately getting the shipping status, maybe updating the ticket, maybe even updating the customer with that information. So that flow there went across to APIs, UIs, you had different applications. That's where UiPath really helps chatbots, is to be able to do more and some of those examples. So with that, I think we've got one more poll question that we want to ask around technology. So Jim, I'm going to hand it back over to you to do the poll question, and then we're going to hand things over to Joe to talk about chatbots.
Great, Brad. So the poll question is, what are your top customer experience technology investment areas? Number one is conversational AI, speech analytics. Number two is providing agents a 360-degree view of the customers. Number three, web and mobile updates. Number four, contact center as a service. And number five, we are making investments in all of these. So we have a lot for the middle one, web and mobile updates coming in. And the second and third are conversational AI and speech analytics, and contact center as a service are tied right now. And if we want to close it out, got a good cross section. Oh, wow, we got a bunch of new ones coming in. Let's just see. It still is web and mobile is number one, and everything else is showing. Yeah, so web and mobile updates at 64%, conversational AI at 18%, and then providing agents a 360 view, and contact center as a service is tied. And there's nobody who said they're making investments in all of these.
Okay. Well, I would have thought conversational AI might have been a little bit higher just based on some of the customers that that I talked to, but there is a conversational AI play together there with web and mobile updates, because some of the chatbot and AI solutions that we're deploying actually also get deployed through web and also through mobile. So with that, Joe, I'm going to hand things over to you, so that way we can start to talk about the customer, which I think is what most folks wanted to hear about. So enough of me talking, and Joe, over to you to tell what everybody wanted to hear.
All right, thank you, everyone. Well, hello, everybody. It's a wonderful opportunity to sit down and talk to you guys about some particular uses that we're doing with both Uipath and oh my goodness, I lost my notes here. Uipath and Druid. So a little bit, promise you I won't do a lot of slides about us, but we've been in healthcare for quite a bit, and some of the customers that we work with, some of the different hospitals. Am I supposed to change the slide?
I'll change the slide.
Thanks. Okay. Yeah, if you can kind of advance. So we've been working in and out of chatbots for quite a bit here in our, of course, mentioned in our background is in healthcare. In this kind of situation where we're doing a presentation, you know, over, I'm used to talking in front of people, and here we are. I mean, my little camera is a little dot here. So you can imagine from the patient side, meeting with a provider, and you go for your telemed, and you're staring either at a blank screen or a logo, and it says your provider will be with you shortly. You know, if you're there for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you start thinking, geez, is my camera working? Is my microphone working? Can anybody see me or hear me? Does anybody know I'm here? So we built some chatbots around to address those kinds of needs. We do some video testing, we do some audio testing. We built that comfort level with the patient before they go into their encounter. Can you hit the slide? There we go. And so the products we work with, we're always in and out of Cerner, Epic. We do a lot of portal work, and we build a lot of automations that are specifically for healthcare. Go to the next slide. All right, so today our conversation is really going to be about a particular hospital, and I'm going to lay out their business case because there's some very key things that are kind of important. The hospital is being challenged with an influx of COVID patients. I mean, COVID's everywhere, but it has some has some new changes because a hospital's revenue is really coming from surgeries, repetitive processes. You know, people come in for physical therapy, chemo treatments. That's kind of where the revenue is. So when you have something like COVID, it's kind of a disruptor, and so hospitals have to work through that. They're also addressing staff shortages. COVID, of course, but there's a lot of different reasons. Pick one. People are retiring. People are suffering from burnout. COVID is having people work tons of different hours. There's competition for skills. There's competition for nurses. And so they needed a way to kind of address some of those shortages. Standardization of process. With COVID and telemed this last year, it really blew up. And so we had to do what we could as quickly as possible. And when you're in that kind of mode, you develop processes that maybe they're not the best. And you have these little pockets, I should say. A clinic will do something one way and another clinic will do something a little different. And so you're not really standardizing the process. The patient doesn't have the same experience going from one clinic to another. And, there might be some compliance issues because things get done in a hurry. We had so many people to address. Language and cultural barriers became an issue. And so we had to address some of that. Competition and ranking. Here in the States, you kind of have a choice to where you can go for treatment and surgery. So hospitals are really keen on making sure that they're ranked as high as possible because the average consumer will do, especially if it's an elective surgery or a process that they have several options available. I live in Houston. We have the medical center and we have tons of hospitals and they can all treat you. But you want to go with the best experience. You want to make sure your insurance company takes it. And with everything, whenever there's a crisis, there's an opportunity to do some reengineering, to do some innovation, and kind of improve the customer or the patient experience. Next slide, please. All right, so not really here to sell you software, but I will tell you from our decision process why we went with Uipath and Druid. So Uipath is easy. They have a wide suite of tools that are available, easy management and deployment of automations. If you worked in and out of healthcare, you know that it's very stringent. We have committees that manage the deployment, the life cycle, when things get moved out to production, because security is a huge deal. And Uipath has a wonderful set of tools to help us kind of with that process. Performance and metric tracking, huge. It's a huge winner for us in healthcare because we are measuring our effectivity. We have several measurements that are kind of unique to healthcare in terms of we measure when patients come in and when they go out, how quick we can turn the beds, average time people come back for follow-ups. There's just a ton of measurements to go there. And of course, we need to be scalable. We started small. Now at this point in time, we're probably about 40 different automations, and we've got a lot more on the whiteboard. And I could say last year at this time we were trying to sell the message about automation, and now we have a line out the door. So that's exciting. For us, because we have to interact with so many different healthcare records and systems and portals, we needed access to powerful AI and machine language capabilities. And of course, by any measure, Uipath is the leader in RPA technology. Now, a bit about Druid. So we've kind of been going through an evolution process, and now we're into giving a voice to the patient, giving a voice to the automations, and that's why we started going with Druid. Its seamless ability to trigger the automations in Uipath was a big thing for us. The ability to interact with humans in a conversational mode and in different languages is a big thing for us. A lot of our customers or a lot of our patients are English. It may not be their primary language. The ability to go multi-channel. Today we're in the web. Tomorrow we may be in social networking. The ability to put a chatbot and put it in WhatsApp or Facebook or any of those social pages, and voice is going to be our holy grail because we are in healthcare and we try to keep people's hands off the keyboards. And the deployment strategies was also a big one for us. Druid has 3 capabilities: cloud, on-premise, and hybrid. We chose to go on-premise because of HIPAA compliance, but there is a move to go into the cloud. And so it's great to know that we'll be able to move that transition pretty simply. All right, next slide. Okay, our roadmap, or more accurately, kind of our process development cycle. We start with the discovery and the interviews. We go out and we have a one-on-one conversation with our teams. What are they doing, how they're doing, what the process is. And it's the same whether we're doing Uipath or Druid. If we're doing a Druid conversation, we will talk to the agents and, what does that process look like for a patient? What do y'all talk to them about? What is the process we're trying to automate? And then we'll go into a build phase where we're starting to really build the workflows and start training the bots, as we say. Then we transition into testing. We have testers that we run through for making sure that the conversations test the way they should. We have testers that, if we're doing automation, that we're checking the data on a continual basis. And then we also have an infrastructure test to make sure that the platform can support the traffic. Then we kind of go into deployment. Of course, today we're dropping chatbots onto hosted pages inside the hospital. We have integrations with MyChart on the Epic side. And then one thing I can't stress enough is to make sure that you monitor. We monitor dropped messages, statistics, workflows, which ones are being used, conversation flows, which ones are being used. We look at the profiles of people that are using our chatbots, where they're connecting from, what kind of equipment they're using. And then we make sure that we expand. We add to other groups. And there's a concept that we do is we start federating everything so that they leverage and work off one another. Next slide. All right, a little bit of our architecture, and this is going to be a high-level architecture. We have three main phases. We started with the unattended bots, and if you can kind of look to the right, we have scaling what we established with the automated internal processes. Then we did the unattended bots, which are really our digital workers. And if you've been in RPA quite a bit, this is what we're talking about. Then we transitioned in our second phase to our chatbots, which is what we're talking about, leveraging what we've learned and the processes that we've built. And we have our chatbots that talk to one another. We didn't want to build and I kind of give you guys some advice. Make sure that when you design it, you're not building a super bot, not one big chat bot that does it for everything. Here at the hospital, we have a chat bot that works for finance, one that works for appointments, another one that works on the clinical side, and we have one that's called our ambassador bot that sits up front, and all it's doing is being a traffic cop, having a conversation with patients that are coming in, trying to understand what they want to do. If they say, well, I want to do an appointment, great, we'll hand that conversation over to the appointment desk, and that chatbot will take them through the journey. That's important for us because that body of knowledge is owned by that department. They're going to be the closest to the patient. They're going to understand the processes a little better. And so we work with them to build that for their department, and then turn over maintenance for them. And then we're adding live agents. So the chatbots, the first ones we talked about, very simple. How do I do this? Where do I do this? I need a form to do this. But sometimes chatbots aren't going to be enough, and so we introduce live agents, and the live agents can strike up the conversation with the patient, maybe do a little bit more of triage, understand what they need, and they also have access to unattended bots as well. So, sometimes simple as that, I need another copy of my statement. I need a letter of understanding, something. So the agents can drop something in the queue, and the unattended bot will process it just like anything else. And go next. Yeah. So the third phase that we're in now is kind of our task bots. And these are working with the unattended bot, or working with the live agents. And so these are very specific, very quick hitting bots that are focused more on the human side. So I need a quick letter, I need a quick form letter. I've got somebody in my chat window, I'm chatting with them, and I need to send a return to work authorization letter, or return to school, some other kind of forms. In hospitals, there's tons of forms. So these task bots are very oriented to the agent. They know exactly the context. So if I would run the letter, I can go out and I can pull the information that from the agent that the patient they're talking to. So the form is already pretty much filled out. It might be a couple of things that the agent needs to do, and then send it. So that's what we're working on now. Can you go to the next slide a little bit? Oh, yes. And I remember talking earlier about having a voice to our chatbots. So everything we do with the chatbots are designed with voice in mind. We are going to be integrating with Siri. We'll be integrating with Google, with Alexa. So if you're a patient, you want to access and talk to someone at the hospital, you should be able to from your device or from your car, and make an appointment. Okay, next. All right, I threw this slide together and I was looking at the benefits. And these ones are about the telemed bots and what they're doing, but there's some more numbers here. But let's say patient calls to support dropped over 20% even in the first month. And these are people that are calling, I can't hear myself, everything's choppy. The bot's does help them with that. Every month we're reaching more and more patients that are doing things after hours. So today a patient would normally call between the hours 8 and 5, wait in the queue, wait for an agent to pick up the phone and start helping them. And that call can take anywhere 15 to 20 minutes, depending on what's needed to be done. But now as we're rolling this thing out, patients are able to handle some of their business after hours. Our hospitals primarily are pediatric, so busy moms, busy dads, but the kids can handle their stuff at night. Patient satisfaction is starting to really go up, and it's key on what their experience is and what they're expecting. And as we have more functionality, we're going to see our satisfaction go up. Even off the bat, we're already saving 2.5 FTEs. We're repurposing them. So, at the hospitals, we're short on staff, and so people get shuffled around to more tasks. So these first ones have kind of been what we're cutting our teeth on. The next one up, we've got patient rooming, patient encounter, and post encounters. Those should be up here in the next few months. The patient rooming in the physical world, in the real world, you go in and you check in. You let the front desk know you're maybe ring that little bell. You let people know you're there. Somebody calls their name, says, "Mr. Nieto, you come with me," and you sit in that room, and somebody in front of clipboard starts asking those questions. Why are you here today? What's your pain level? We see you're taking these prescriptions. Are you still taking these prescriptions? You're not. So there's some question and answer that goes on, and so the person doing that is going to be the MA. And the chatbot that we're testing out now, it's in our lab, we're testing it, is running the patients through that process so that the MA can just focus on looking at really quickly and then getting them into the encounter. And the encounter is when I actually meet with the provider, have the conversation, what's wrong, da, 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 da. And then the post encounter is, all right, we're done with our meeting or our visit. I want to see you back in 2 weeks, and maybe I've got, I want to change a prescription, so I want to get those over to the pharmacy, and then we follow it with a quality check. All right, so next slide, please. All right, this is kind of key. Lessons learned. This is always, I mean, this is from my perspective, and I want to share that with you because that's the whole point, right? So just because you can doesn't mean you should. There's a lot of great functionality out there from the functions. I encourage people when they're starting off in their chatbots and they're laying this out, that you keep it simple, you find your happy path, and then you kind of build out. You start adding the functionality because it's important that you get things in your first iteration all the way through, and then you go to second iteration and your next phase, and you start adding on because you don't want to try to boil the ocean, if that's another way to say it. The next thing is you kind of want to align your people with your strategy. You want to make sure that they get it. They need to understand that the what's been improved. You want to get them to own it. A lot of my people that I work with, they name things. They name the bots. They name the chat bots, and so it becomes another person. It becomes another personality. They're working alongside them, and like I said, they're going to be your biggest advocates. They're going to be your biggest supporters. They're going to be your biggest advocates. The third point I want to make sure is you harden your infrastructure. When you get into chat bots and you get into bots that are exposed to the outside the firewall, you're going to meet a lot of actors and folks that aren't going to have your best interest. They're going to try to break your system or infiltrate. So make sure you do some planning up front. Make sure that you're working with your info security team hand in hand, that they know what you're doing and you know what they're doing and what the challenges are and why things are like they are. You wish some functionality you could do, but you have to work with that. Also encourage you to start slow and resist big bang. You're introducing automation, you're introducing chatbots, and it's a big shock to the system. It honestly is. So start slow, get those successes under your belt, and then start to ramp up. And I guarantee you, people will be knocking on your door. Monitor everything that you do, measure it. If you care about it, measure it. Monitor your traffic, monitor messages that are being dropped out so that you know if you need to go tweak the conversation flows. Look at your automations, do the timings on it. Are you getting the performance that you want? And there's opportunities to kind of improve these things. And of course, the last one is learn from every failure. It's only a failure if you don't learn anything. I wish we could say we're all betting 1,000% on rolling out automations and chatbots. But the truth of the matter is it's not always going to be like that, but you need to learn why. Understand maybe the automation payback isn't there. Maybe the complication was a little bit more than you thought it would be. So go back and learn from that. I think that's it for my slide deck.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Brad. We're pretty much at the time, but if you have any closing comments, please go ahead.
Jim, were there any questions that came through?
The questions, no questions that I saw. That we are past our time.
Okay.
So we went over a bit. I understand it's the last of the day. I'm not seeing any questions that I had a couple questions. I'll ask a question. So
Sure.
My question is, when you guys are deploying the bots, on top of the ERPs and so forth, every time the ERP changes, what is your program to address the IT changes, and how is that working?
So we actually have a committee. So in hospitals, they're thinking 6 months ahead. We have an environment set up. So we have our production bots, and then we point our bots at the new environment, and we start looking for the changes that may or may not impact our bots.
And Jim, just to add on to that, we also, I didn't cover it in my presentation, but we have a tool called Test Manager, Test Suite, that also helps proactively detect and update when the robots, when those system changes are made.
Okay, great, great. And are there any lessons learned on just the onboarding of folks, you know, to the program? Any key messages? I know because you're generally you're bringing out a few SMEs and everybody else is kind of hidden. Do you have any best practices around making sure everybody's informed and so forth? And
sure, we have two. We have an RPA 101 that we do. It's probably about 10 slides, and we give it to every department we go into, and we answer the questions nobody's asking. Is this going to take my job away? How does it going to help me? You know, do I have to worry about anything? So we address those kind of things, and we give them a high level what a bot is and what it isn't. And we do the same thing for the chatbots. We have a chatbot orientation meeting for new agents as they come on. We talked about what the difference is between real world and having a conversation in the chatbot. We talk about etiquette. We talk about handling difficult patients. We talk about how to escalate, how to move things in and out.
great. And then I'll ask one last question on intelligent process automation versus RPA in the handoff between the two. Where do you see that, and how does that come about in your deployments?
You always start, I'll start with that one. So RPA to me, so when I first started out, RPA was just a robot that could do basically the hands, the keyboard, the mouse clicks, etc. But then intelligent process automation or intelligent RPA, it starts to incorporate AI. So you start to add brain, you start to add some thinking and some logic to what RPA can do. So I think for us in the contact center, in customer experience space, is that we see the what we do with the agents as being really just traditional RPA, but a lot of what we do today really incorporates artificial intelligence capabilities around symptom analysis, text summarization, categorizing emails, all sorts of things that we can do with AI
Great.
and RPA.
Excellent. Well, thank you both for a fantastic presentation. Very informative. We went over, but you're the last ones of the day, so no worries. I hope you enjoyed presenting. If you have any closing words, please.
The only thing I'll close off with is that we do, if you'd like to learn more about Uipath, our partner Element Blue, or anyone else, or anything else that we do in Uipath, we do have our big conference, our big event called Forward coming up in Las Vegas, and that's October 4th and 6th. If you do a Google search for Uipath Forward, you should find the event registration.
Right.
All the best on the conference.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. And as you said, we're a resource for you. Let us know.
Okay.
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, we're going to close out today. And thanks to Brad and Joe for an excellent presentation. Very informative. I want to put a big thank you to Brian and his team, the BTOES team, of making this possible, making it possible to be free for you. And a big thank you to our sponsors, Signavio, Abby, and of course, Uipath, who closed us out today. Without their support, we could not deliver this experience on a global basis at no cost to you. And thank you so much for making this possible. So just as a recap, this week, these last 3 days, today we of course kicked it off with Tariq Agui from NCC Group. And all these webinars all these talks will be available on BTOES Insights. I gave a talk on discovering growth through your customer needs and priorities. And then of course we had our discussion here. And not to just talk about today, but on Monday we kicked it off with Signavio, the Institute of Healthcare Excellence. Shift Happens and Abby, some fantastic presentations there. I urge you to reach out to those presenters. They're very great. They're great folks and many, many good insights there. And then yesterday we had Abbey, Fluoresce, and Tandem Health, and SNEF. So truly a global list of providers giving you insights in customer experience. We hope that you found this informative and interesting to you, that you can take back to your company to start making a bigger impact on customer experience. And being the host, on behalf of myself, I really thank each and every one of you for your participation, your questions, your feedback, your ideas. Fantastic. I really enjoyed it and look forward to seeing you at a conference in the future. All the best.